Good morning. This is John from the Springs Mennonite Church. I'm here today with you at the beginning of a new week. In fact, it's the beginning of a new month. And God just continues to shower blessings and good things on all of us if we just take the time to look for them. And this morning I have a passage to share with you. It's somewhat similar to a passage I shared last week. This one comes from Psalm 143 in verse 10. And it says this: "Teach me to do your will, for you are my God. May your gracious spirit lead me forward on a firm footing." The psalmist here is asking God to teach him how to live, how to respond, how to do everything. And we all need teaching. Now, in the context of a church, we need teaching about what God says, but we all need teaching because we come into this world and we don't know anything. If you think back, which you probably can't, to the time when you were just a really, really little person, you didn't know very much. Your brain was filled with potential, but it didn't have much in there in terms of learning. And so you had to gradually increase your knowledge and gradually increase your skills. You watch a little kid, they try to walk, and they're kind of funny the way they try to walk, because they'll maybe take a step or two and they'll sort of dance around and then plunk, down they go again. But they don't quit. That's the interesting thing. You would think, and maybe because of our situation, you'd think if we get frustrated, we'd stop. We'd do something else. But not a little kid. They just keep hunkering down and keep at it till they get it down. And it's really neat to watch them. And then they learn other things like eating, and they somehow using a spoon and a fork evidently is just not the simplest thing to master. And I understand somewhat how parents just let them make a mess. But at some point they have to learn. They can't get by with just being a kid their whole lives. Now some adults kind of think they can act like kids their whole lives, but if you want to be a productive adult in society, you have to learn how to be one. Well, the same is true here in this scripture. The psalmist is saying, "O Lord, teach me your will, for you are my God." Teach me. Show me. How many of you listening to me today had someone in the past who showed you, therefore taught you, something really, really good? Well, I remember one fellow, my first time in graduate school. His name was Dick Mills. He had a PhD in biochemistry. And he was just a strange guy. He was about 5'8", probably weighed 220 pounds. He was a former Navy SEAL. He collected butterflies. And oftentimes when he would teach, he'd just start teaching out of the top of his head. But the one thing about Dick Mills that I learned, whenever you went into his office, whatever he was doing, he made time for you. He'd stop what he was doing. I can still see him. Put his feet up on his desk, lean back in his chair and say, what do you need to talk about? And then he told me one time that you can always tell the difference between a good professor and a lousy professor. He said a good professor will teach you everything he knows because he hopes that one day you'll know more than he does. But a lousy professor won't teach you anything that he knows because one day he's afraid you'll know more than he does. Well, I don't know if Dick Mills was a Christian or not. I never asked that. I never saw that side of him. But he taught me how to be an adult, a human, a professor for a while, and pastor, and to always have time when someone comes around. Now, maybe what they need isn't that big of a deal to you, but it is to them. And if you think about the life of Jesus, every time someone interrupted him, he stopped what he was doing. He gave them his time, his advice, sometimes his healing hands. He stopped because he knew that what they needed was important. Well, that's kind of how this passage is. Lord, teach me your will, for you are my God. God will always take time to minister to you. Well, I know we can't actually think of God in terms of time and space, but frankly, that's all I've got here is this fleshy body, and that's all I've ever interacted with. So I can use the words and the understanding to help me better understand God. And the fact is that God will teach us if we'll take the time to listen and learn. Now, when we think we know everything, we're not much good to anybody. When we have arrived and so we never have to learn anymore, we really have stagnated something fierce. But God is always reaching out to us. He's reaching out to you today, wherever you are in life, whatever's happening around you. And if you want to know, what do I do? Have you ever been in a position where you just sort of looked at the sky, you closed your eyes, you did some kind of a gesture and said, I don't know what to do? Well, I have. There was a time in my life when I did not know what to do. The pain was enormous. And I developed a simple prayer. Lord, please help me. Help me, please. And he did. Now, there are times during that time when I still didn't see him. But he was there. And it doesn't matter our situation. It doesn't matter our circumstances. God will be there to guide you and direct you and teach you what to do if we just reach out to him. And it doesn't matter whether we're a little kid or a strapping teenager or a big guy or an old guy or gal. God's still there. And he loves you and he cares for you. And that's what he wants to do in your life. I hope you have let him do that. And if you haven't, you will let him do that. Well, thanks so much for listening. If you have a prayer concern or a need, let us know. We'll do everything we can as fast as we can to help meet your need. Until later, God bless you. I'll talk to you again.